Right. AP World History students. Hi, this is Mr. Shally. And I wanted to take some time to talk to you guys a little bit about these terms and your exam that's coming up next week. Um, you know, this is a big structural theme with our course. You're going to be doing exams like this with terms like this all year long. And so I'm just trying to give you some strategies on what I would do to study for an exam like this if I were you, and things that work for me. That doesn't mean everyone has to do it this way. It's just a suggestion. In things that work for me, like personally, when I was studying and going to college, quite a while ago, and then things I've kind of recommended to students over the years. One thing I've definitely noticed is sometimes people just they don't know how to study, or they don't really know where to start. And I just think it's would be useful if I give you guys some suggestions. One thing, like for sure, I'm like really confident in, you have these terms, you have all the answers written out. If you think, if you just think of studying as just reading this, you're gonna have a hard time. The information is not gonna be deeply ingrained in your brain if you're just reading this. Even if you just read it multiple times, I feel like you have to do something with it. That's what we're going to talk about now. Um, and remember, the reason for this test and the reason for the learning that we do in this class is it's not just about making 100 on the exam on Tuesday, which I hope that you do and that you are very capable of doing. It's about getting an understanding of these topics so that you're able to apply them throughout the course and then also on the exam in May. And so it's really important to get a deep understanding of these. So we're going to talk about how we would do that right now. So you have your terms. Okay. I kind of prepared something below these. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and I just cut out a couple of the terms here so we'd have them right in front of us for this video. You'll notice right away that I have paper. Okay. I think it's really important to use paper when you're studying, okay, and actually physically write things down. Um, that just works for me, and I think it allows you to kind of be flexible with how you interpret the knowledge and add to it, and I think it's really helpful. So I'm gonna do railroad. So if I were you, I would do something like what I'm about to do for every single one of the terms. So I would write out railroads, okay, and then I would make it look just like, I would copy it from here. What are they? They're tracks and trains for land transport. Okay. And when did they happen? 1820s and onward. Okay. I basically just rewrote that, but I'm just having to write it down and think about it a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the why it was significant. And I'm going to basically rewrite what's already there, but you're going to see I'm going to change it a little bit. And when I change things just a little bit like this, it's forcing me to process the information and really think about what I'm reading. Okay. So why was it significant? It revolutionized inland transportation. Okay. What else did it do? It dramatically reduced travel time and cost. All right. And with that, you could just say, easier to ship things. I added that in. That's just me thinking, okay? And those are the kinds of things that I would be putting down in there. Once going back to the definition, what else did it do? It stimulated industrial growth. All right, what does that mean? Okay, money. So I'm adding to that. What else did it do? Um, Caused territorial expansion. So this is almost exactly what's in the little definition here. I'm just changing it a little bit. And then I'll make a little picture here. You know, this is expansion. Okay, something going out from something else. And then lastly, It integrated national markets plus culture. Okay, now that's just exactly, basically, just like what's in here. I'm just putting into my own words a little bit. And it's just really important when you think about railroads and how they connected people and this integration of national markets and culture. That's a big thing. And I'll tell you right now, we're going to talk about that literally the rest of the year. It's going to come up a bunch of times. So that's just kind of evidence as to why this is particularly important. Then what I would do, if you're at home, you can use your phone. If you have a computer or whatever, I would look up railroads on the Google, okay, and just find something else out about it. Or if you know something else about this already, you can add that. I have good background knowledge on all these things, and so I would just add something else that's mine for this, okay? That's not from this. And that doesn't mean you have to have that on the exam. It's going to help solidify this information in your brain. And then for me, I just like using different colored pens sometimes. I have a lot of them. And so I'm going to add here, this is something that's mine. Um, Railroads helped transport large materials much easier than previously able for people. Okay. And so, like, think of railroads, like the ones you see in Pearland today, are pretty similar to what's been going on for the past, 200 years or so, or maybe a little more than 200 years. And so they like they can carry lots of heavy loads that would really be almost impossible for humans to do in a very quick way. And so the other thing that I would add here is, what did railroads replace? Like, what were people using before railroads? And this is a little bit mind blowing, but like the best thing for carrying stuff around and powering things before railroads were horses. So horses, um, you know, were replaced by railroads. It's kind of crazy to think about, but that's true. And so that's when you think about it that way, you're like, wow, railroads are like pretty important when you talk about land transportation. They literally replaced horses for speed and the ability to carry things. And so that kind of shows you like how significant the railroad section is, or the railroad innovation is. Now, I did this for one thing. If I didn't explain it all, this would probably take me 2 or 3 minutes to do. Just copying down, adding a little bit of my own information. I would do this literally for all of the terms. I would have a notebook full of the things just like this. And then I would go back after I did that, or after I did 10 of them or something. You don't have to do it all at once. I would go back to my terms. I would maybe cover this part, and I would just start picking out some things. And, I would pick out the printing press, and I would take out a piece of notebook paper, and I would see, can I write out a good chunk of this or enough of this where I would gain credit on the exam? And I would do that for as many of these as I could. And if you get through all 20-ish of these and you're like, man, I don't know what GMOs are, you need to go back. You need to do this again for that. Um, if you did Panama Canal and you knew every little part about it, you don't have to rewrite that one. Okay. But you just kind of keep practicing through that until you feel like you have a really good grasp of this level of information for each of them. Now, once again, you're not going to have to write all this down. Okay, this is a little bit overkill in that regard. However, you have to think about test day whenever you're taking a test, and it tends to be a little more pressure packed and stressful and all that. And we want to alleviate that stress and have more information in our brains than we even need, so that you can just put down what you want, you get good score on the test, and you move on. Okay. And the other beneficial thing of this is these notes aren't going away. These notes can go into your notebook or your binder, and then you have them for the rest of the year. Because I promise you, looking at this at the end of the year before the exam be important. Okay, so that's just one aspect of how I would approach studying for an exam like this. I think it's important. I think it's helpful. If you have a different method, that's awesome. Um, you know, use it. But if you're looking for something, you want to try something new, I would suggest checking this out. So good luck, have a good weekend, and then I will see you next week. All right, bye.